Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to another night of iRacing action here on the National Racing Network. Tonight, we're coming at you from the land of the rising sun, the artist formerly known as Twin Ring Motegi. Today, it is known as Mobility Resort Motegi. My name is Patrick Byrne, and I'm going to be taking you around this place with the action of the Silver Crown race cars, these 875 horsepower small block V8s. These things are going to be absolutely wild around this racing surface. This track just over a mile and a half long with two very different corners. You have the low banked, very wide, very shallow turns number 1 and 2, and then turns 3 and 4 are very tight, very high banked, and very difficult to get around. Very easy to smack the wall coming off turn number 4. Almost reminds me of Darlington here in the States, but to a much more dramatic example. Qualifying just getting ready to get underway here. Derek Love going to be your first car out on track. Derek Love going to be in the number 2 car tonight in tonight's 2800 strength of field top split race. A full house here. 24 cars registered for tonight, 24 cars being the max amount of cars you can get in a Silver Crown race. So the strength of field is notably lower than you might see in some other Silver Crown events. Not to say this race will be used as a drop week by everyone, but for a lot of these top guys, this might not be a race that makes their best 8. However, you have a bad night here, it's not the end of the world, and if you have a great night, maybe it'll be a little better than one of your worst events. For some of these lower drivers in this race, though, your normal bottom split guys, tonight is going to be a fantastic opportunity to pick up points. Finishing 9th or 10th in this race would be equivalent of winning +5 in that bottom split. So definitely a huge night to make up points if you're some of those lower guys. You see it, just how difficult this track is. Derek Love, one of the best in the business, smacking the wall coming out of turn 4 there. Very easy to do. We'll pick up Thomas Lewandowski in the number 3 car. Or we'll try to, anyway. Helps if you hit the right buttons here. Thomas Lewandowski coming out of the pits. Goes past that blue cone, is allowed to enter the racing surface way down this super duper wide back straightaway. River Hayes going to be your fastest time so far. River Hayes with a 34.065. Laura Gerhardt goes even quicker, but Brandon Buchberger quickly takes over the top spot with a 33.803. Buchberger on his second lap in that Dienst Farm number 5 machine. You can see just how much more banked that turns 3 and 4 complex is. Much tighter, though. You'll see the speeds these guys go through there is much slower than the faster turns number 1 and 2. Second lap, not any quicker for Brandon Buchberger. Nii Camargo going second quick, still just about a quarter second off the pace of Buchberger. Nobody able to get close to Buchberger's time, not even one of the best in the business, River Hayes. But Lewandowski is almost able to get there, only a 100th of a second off. James Watson, going to be in 3rd position so far, takes his 2 laps and pulls it off the track. He's about 2/10 off the pace. Derek Love, just a 100th of a second behind James Watson. Thomas Lewandowski coming around to complete his second lap. Can he take the top spot from Brandon Buchberger? Narrowly misses the wall coming off turn 4. Comes across the line. Unfortunately, not going to be any quicker. That lap going to be a 33.827, just barely missing the mark. Tommy Toe on the racing circuit, taking some extra laps. He's already got both his times on the board. He's going to be in that 15th starting position. Fortunately, the graphics cutting off the TO out of his first name. It's unfortunate. It shows right on timing and scoring, but does not show right on the graphics. So he'll be Mito today, I guess. Todd Taylor coming around and take his second lap. Larry Pace goes out there. Quick time on the board. That's going to be a 33.757. Pushing Brandon Buchberger back to the second position. Lewandowski going to round out your podium here for qualifying. Edward Delighter in that number 22 machine. Haven't seen him ever here in the top split, I don't think, but with only one split here, he's got no other option. Going to fight with the big boys today. Comes around for his first timed lap. Unfortunately, the first lap not scoring. He is the only car out on track, so we'll put the pressure on him. Let's see if we can ride along with him as we go around this fantastic racing circuit. Going to sit here on the roll bar cam into the steeply banked turns 3 and 4. Car pushing up the racetrack. Very, very easy to do. Very easy to try and go into this corner as fast as you do turns 1 and 2. Is going to decide to pull it off of the racing surface, park it. Maybe it's a good idea to start in the back, get a little bit more experience with the other cars, trying to basically gauge yourself off of everyone else, see what they're doing. But decides to kill the qualifying effort, and that is going to be your field here for tonight's race at Twin Ring Motegi. So, Larry Pace is going to be your pole sitter, followed by Brandon Buckberger on his outside. Row behind them will be Thomas Lewandowski in the number 3 machine and our own James Watson, starting in the 4th position. Third row will have Derek Love starting on the inside and Nick Camargo on the outside. Behind them will be the pair of Laura Gerhardt in the number 9 machine in 7th place and River Hayes. Usually one of our top cars here. A little concerning to see him so far back in the 8th position, but lots of passing opportunities here at Motegi. This track tends to drive like a road course as the tires start to wear. Might be able to make his way back up the field. Brian Elmore in the number 7 machine, going to be starting 9th. To his outside will be Joe Gauthier. Making our way back out of the top 10 will be Vic Aldrich in the 11th position. To his outside will be Kyle Westwood. Starting 13th will be Steve Costley, and Colby Mann will be in the 14th position. Behind them will be Scott Schroeder and Todd Taylor. Tommy Toe finally showing right on this graphic. In the number 8 machine, he's going to be starting 17th, and to his outside will be Scott Holder. Stephen Protzman going to be starting in the 19th position. To his outside will be Drew Bernard. Calvin Smith is going to be starting in the 21st position in the 24 car. Lowest ranked car in the field. It'll be fun to see what he can do in this field of top split drivers. See if he can get lucky, maybe make up a couple spots through attrition, or maybe show off his talent and pick up a couple numbers there on the grid. To his outside will be Bertrand Allen starting 22nd, and your final row will have Robert Reynolds and Edward Delighter. Lights are out on the pace car. They only get one lap around this Mobility Park Motegi. Pace car going to take the dive off of turn number 4. And we'll see these guys come around the racing surface. There we go. Pace car is in. Got to wait till those double white lines. And the number 1 car of Larry Pace is going to step on the loud pedal and get underway. Great start by Pace, taking almost 2 car lengths off of Brandon Buckberger. Easily going to be single file through the first 4 rows into turn number 1. Everyone trying to get single file relatively quickly. This is not a track you can run fast on the high line. You kind of have to sit in someone's draft and try and get to the corner before them down these long straightaways. You can see Buckberger with a huge draft has to check out of it, thinking about making the move on Larry Pace, not quite able to get it done. Timing and scoring being a bit uncooperative here. So we'll just count them off as they go. Top 5 across the line is going to be Larry Pace, Brandon Buckberger, Lewandowski making his way all the way up to third. Followed behind him will be James Watson. Ooh, bobble out of Larry Pace. They're going to drag race down the line. Who's it going to be across the line? It is going to be Buckberger leading the lap. Brandon Buckberger taking the lead. Larry Pace going to slot in right behind him before they even get to turn number 1. See the two TWRS machines starting to work together, trying to get by these guys. Larry Pace is a notably tough driver to pass. There's a reason he holds that number 1 car. Almost an 8,600 I rating out of that driver. One of the top drivers on the entire iRacing platform, not just here in the Silver Crown cars. River Hayes making his way by James Watson, getting himself into the 4th position. His next goal is try and chase down Thomas Lewandowski in the number 3 machine. Watson not going to give up easy, though, staying right on the tail tank of River Hayes. Hayes now diving to the inside of Lewandowski. They are going to be side by side coming out of turn 4. Loses momentum, though. Lewandowski's able to take the spot back coming out of turn 4. Working lap number 5 now out of the 65 lap distance of tonight's race feature. This top 5 has formed a notable pack, very separated from Derek Love, half a second separating James Watson and Derek Love. So Derek having to stay in the line, stay in the slipstream. Excuse me there. Hoping not to fall too far back from these guys. If you do lose the draft, it is almost impossible to catch it without a caution. So that'll be night over, and all chances of getting a top 5 here will be done for Derek Love. Laura Gerhardt not giving up easy, though. Fighting side by side with Derek Love, trying to hold him back. Towards the front here, though, we have Larry Pace fighting side by side with Lewandowski. Lewandowski getting the move done on the high side. Is he clear? I think so. Larry Pace going to be side by side with River Hayes now. Very impressive to see that outside move completed here in turns number 1 and 2. Notably foggy day here, just north of Tokyo here in Japan. Very humid racetrack. These engines aren't going to be making as much power as they normally do. Might make it a little bit easier to drive, but the conditions look to be relatively slick. The car's not sliding around so much in the rear end, but definitely pushing a ton in the front end. Drivers having to slow way down in these corners to try and keep that car glued to that white line at the bottom. Side by side now will be James Watson and Larry Pace. Larry Pace slipping back. River Hayes going to be setting your new quick time. That is going to be a 34.200, 34,200 will be the time for River Hayes, your fastest driver on track. He's going to be doing his best to catch Thomas Lewandowski. Feel like the slipstream might be helping him here, though. Going to try and get on the inside, do the same move he made on the pack behind him. Larry Pace able to get by James Watson. Watson's going to be falling behind Pace now. But we watch this top 3 battle. River Hayes able to easily get below Thomas Lewandowski as he sets fast lap once again, 0.02 of a second quicker than his previous. Lewandowski going to have the run coming off of turn number 2, but it's not going to make any difference as Hayes is still to the bottom. Ooh, Buckberger sliding up the racetrack. That slows Lewandowski down even more. I'd say this move is all but completed as they come out of turn 4, and they'll be side by side for the race lead, drag racing down the line. Give that one to Buckberger that time. Buckberger dives down, blocks off the run from River Hayes. Going to be much more of a fight than that. Only 10 laps into this 65-lap race. Not a caution yet. Clean and green the whole way through the field. So we see more side-by-side action from these leaders, and Lewandowski looking to make it 3 wide. And he does, dives all the way down to the bottom. It's now going to be River Hayes and Lewandowski fighting for the lead. They both tag team Mr. Buckberger. Still side by side go the two TWRS cars. Buckberger holding the inside line, going to try and get the spot back from River Hayes, maybe even pushing Lewandowski down the front straightaway, not quite able to get to the tail tank. Working lap number 12 now. Laura Gerhardt going new quick time. Very fast lap out of Laura Gerhardt. That is going to be a 34.146. She's trying to make her way back up to this field, and she has caught this pack. This is now a 6-car battle for the race lead. Completely broken away from Derek Love. Buckberger still going to be on the inside of River Hayes, trying to clear, going to push up the racetrack just a little bit. No contact made, though. No harm, no foul. See if we can get an onboard look with Larry Pace as he watches behind this fight. Very chaotic up here. River Hayes still to the inside of Buckberger as you ride along with Larry Pace in the 4th position. As he looks down low, having to fight that car to keep it on that inside line. Very large, very wide racing surface, almost 9 lanes of racetrack that you can use here at Mobility Resort Motegi. Hearing that 358 cubic inch V8 scream as he dives into the corner. Has to step on the binders though. You can see just how much these cars move around. Going to be side by side now with Brandon Buckberger. Buckberger starting to slip back. Lewandowski pretty confidently holding the lead. River Hayes looking like he's killed his run just for now, trying to save a little bit. And just as I say that, he is peeking to the inside. He's going to get there to the right rear tire. Now side by side, even with Lewandowski, going to get the move clear before they even make it halfway into turn number 1. It's almost like for once if these guys could just cooperate and listen to what I'm saying and make it sound like I know what I'm talking about. But they're going to be side by side coming down the back straightaway. Larry Pace looking like he wanted to make it 3 wide, but now Lewandowski's going to get hung out to dry. He's going to get passed by Larry Pace here. Lewandowski's still stuck there on the high side. River Hayes is going to be your top car across the board. Leads lap number 16. Larry Pace and Lewandowski swapping positions back and forth. As we'll dive a little further back in the pack, why don't we take a look at Joe Gauthier and this pack of 5 cars. Battling nose to tail, number 11 car of Gauthier looking to make the move on Brian Elmore. Going to try and exit the corner a little bit lower. This pack headed by Derek Love. Derek Love, unfortunately, almost 3 seconds behind race leader and 2 seconds behind Laura Gerhardt. He has confidently lost the draft here. Nothing he can do. Has to just hope for a caution if he wants to get caught back up to this front pack race cars. Uncharacteristic to see Derek Love this far back in the field, and he's not all that far back. He's only in the 7th position, which for a normal race car driver, a normal night, that wouldn't be that bad. But Derek Love fighting for a championship here is normally competing for wins as we're having lead changes one after the other here towards the front. River Hayes, and now your race leader. River Hayes, unfortunately, facing a little bit of a connection issue. Some major storms traveling across the Midwest of America right now. Not quite sure where River Hayes is from, but hopefully no weather issues, no weather interruptions happening during this race here tonight for him. Will ride on board with Thomas Lewandowski as he tries to make his charge against River Hayes, getting that top position back. I just love watching the hands here, especially at a racetrack like this, kind of sawing very gently back and forth on the wheel, kind of coercing the car into whichever direction you want it to go. These cars aren't light and nimble like their IndyCar counterparts. These things are like what IndyCars would have been if they never put wings on things, if they never moved the engine behind the driver. This is basically an evolution of the 1960s roadster-style IndyCars. So when you turn the steering wheel, you're kind of asking the car, please turn left, please go to the low line, please go to the high line. You're not telling it what to do. These things are like riding a mechanical bull, especially at these big 1.5 miles that these super speedway crowns are known for. As Lewandowski, with a huge charge on River Hayes, loses it all in the mid-corner though. Lap traffic on the outside, slowing both cars down. Almost contact as they make it out of turn number 4. River Hayes going to lead lap number 21. Brandon Buchberger, trying to rejoin this fight, is going to be sitting right behind these pair as they run side by side down the back straightaway. Once again, a little more connection bobbles for River Hayes. This lap, almost too close to call, but that one you can give to Thomas Lewandowski, barely leading the lap by just about a tenth of a second, or excuse me, by a hundredth of a second, 10/1000ths of a second. As he is now completely clear of River Hayes. River Hayes going to try and get the crossover here, dives to the inside. They're going to be side by side once again as they traverse down the back straightaway. James Watson trying to give the push to Brandon Buchberger, catching him back up to this fight. Trying to make this a 4-car joust for the race lead. Oh, huge bobble there out of Brandon Buchberger. River Hayes once again to the inside, and Lewandowski's going to slide up the racetrack, going to slip back just a little bit and going to concede the position to River Hayes. Not quite. Going to try and get the momentum here on the outside, down the back straightaway. They're going to be side by side, dead even heat. Buchberger gets to choose which car he's going to push, goes to the inside, going to try and give the shove to River Hayes. River Hayes going to have the nose into the corner in turn number 3. Side by side once again down the front straightaway. That lap you can give to River Hayes. Going to be barely in the lead by 8/1000ths of a second. Buchberger now easily to the inside of Lewandowski. Going to lose momentum, holding it there on the bottom line, though. You can see he just gives it all up in the mid-corner. Going to be able to slide down low. Going to attempt to make it 3 wide. Maybe not. Still too far back to try and get the move done. Once again, River Hayes with the advantage in the turn number 3, but Lewandowski will not give up the charge on that high side. They're going to have it dead even heat once again across the line. It's going to be River Hayes that time. Laura Gerhardt trying to join this fight, going to be side by side with James Watson. We have a full-on pack race going on here at Motegi. Larry Pace also in that fight. 6-car battle, 6-car pack here for the race lead, and we're not even halfway into this race. Feel free to check in the comments with thoughts, comments, concerns. Let us know what you think. Do you think these drivers can go green flag the entire way through with the way they're racing? I think if they continue this on any longer, side by side, 2 rows deep, there's no way they can go without an incident. I mean, you could already see the little bit of damage there on the number 3 machine. As now Buchberger trying to make it 3 wide, once again going down the back straightaway. I don't see a way this ends without one of these cars upside down. And if you don't think I'm doing a good job here in the booth, you can feel free to send all your hate mail to bizzle@nationalracingnetwork.com. That is Bizzle @nationalracingnetwork.com. You will get a response filled with a support ticket, and we will escalate it up to higher management and maybe get me fired from here. But I know that all of you fantastic people at home would not want that to happen. I think we're doing a fantastic job here as River Hayes takes the lead. He's going to be on the high side now. Lewandowski switching it up, going to be diving down to the bottom side. Buckberger going to try and give him the shove in the turn number 3. Lewandowski with the advantage coming out of turn number 4, but the momentum's going to carry River Hayes across the line first. River Hayes going to have the top spot for lap number 30. Nearing the halfway point of tonight's 65-lap feature here at Motegi. Kind of surprising to see that we haven't had a caution here. Usually in these pack races, they start to get antsy. Contact is inevitable. It's not like some of the shorter tracks, some of the more traditional mile-and-a-halfs where they can run the whole race flag to flag. This one is very unique. You see right there, that number 5 machine of Brandon Buckberger swinging the back end of that car almost all the way around, drifting out of turn number 4. Larry Pace trying to rejoin this fight, makes his way back up to the 3rd position. Going to be single file here now through this top 6. Oh, Brandon Buckberger gets into the rear of Larry Pace. Just a little bit of a bump and run there, trying to get him loose. Doesn't succeed in getting him loose, but doesn't succeed in getting the position. Still going to be Hayes, Lewandowski, Pace, and Buckberger, followed by James Watson and Laura Gerhardt for this top 6 pack of cars. Lewandowski looking to make the dive to the inside, going to try and go side by side now with River Hayes. As they make their way into turn number 3, once again, it's going to be Hayes with the advantage. Lewandowski's going to carry a ton of speed, going to have to get on the binders in the mid-corner, though. Side by side, once again, down the front straightaway. That lap is going to go to, well, we'll have to give it to Lewandowski on the technicality. That River Hayes did have a little bit of a connection battle going across the line. So, very technically, that lap does go to Thomas Lewandowski. Don't have an accurate timing and scoring on what the margin was across that lap, but I can bet you it was probably pretty close. River Hayes losing the position now to Larry Pace. Larry Pace making his way up to the 2nd position. I'm thinking he was saving his tires through the first half of this race because that car looks like it is on rails. Last lap for Larry Pace was a 34.379. Last lap for Lewandowski was a 34.364. But River Hayes now back to the inside of Larry Pace. Going to be side by side, dead heat down the back straightaway. Into turn number 3, the advantage is going to go to Larry Pace. Hayes getting into the corner a little bit deep. Going to hold the momentum in turn number 4, though. Out of 4, though, gets super loose. Has to chase the car all the way down all 15 lanes of this super wide racing surface here at Motegi. Loses a ton of time, though. Makes his way back to the 4th position, sliding right in front of teammate James Watson. Thomas Lewandowski now with a comfortable 1/4 of a second gap to Larry Pace. Larry Pace trying to close the gap into turn number 3, though. I think he went in a little too hot, though. Doesn't look like he lost too much momentum, though. Let's see what the gap is across the line. Ooh, might not matter. Huge wiggle out of Larry Pace. Buckberger able to sneak by very easily. Buckberger makes his way up to this 2nd position now. I believe if Brandon Buckberger wins this race or any race here in the 12-week season of the iRacing Silver Crown cars, he must donate $100 to Driven to Save Lives. Very charitable cause, and frankly, I like to see his money getting spent, and I like to see it getting spent on a very good charity. So hopefully he wins, and we can send the $100 their way. Larry Pace, not very charitable here, though. Trying to get the spot back from Brandon Buckberger. Going to make him fight for his donation here. And easily gets a spot. Completes the pass before they even make it to the exit of the corner. River Hayes going to try and follow him by on the inside line, trying to leave Brandon Buckberger hung out to dry there on the high side. Can they go 2 for 1? Buckberger says, I don't think so. Oh, huge wiggle there out of Buckberger. Almost looked like he got into the wall. James Watson with the best seat in the house right now, following right behind these cars. We see it is very distracting to try and drive behind a car like River Hayes right now with that connection issue, because you saw when he popped out of space-time continuum, he was on that bottom line there, and when he popped back in, he was almost against that outside wall. Watson having to step on the binders trying to avoid hitting the wall out of turn number 4. Losing a ton of time there, and Laura Gerhardt going to get to the inside and get the pass completed before they even make it to the corner. Now, an unfortunate mistake for James Watson. Not the end of the world, though. He is only going to fall back to the 6th position. Still plenty of time to make his way back up. Going to be 25 laps remaining tonight here. Or 27. Counting is not our strong suit here at the National Racing Network. So we'll jump back to your fight for the race lead. Larry Pace all over the rear tail tank of Mr. Thomas Lewandowski. Right behind them, Buckberger and Hayes still fighting side by side. Buckberger's going to get the spot, and he's going to be safely in the 3rd position. River Hayes falling back just a little bit, going to be 2 tenths behind Brandon Buckberger as they make their way down the back straightaway. Larry Pace going to try and follow in the draft of that number 3 machine. Try and get a run set up for turn number 1. Not quite able to get anything done there. Mr. Lewandowski running a very conservative line, blocking off the inside of the corner, not allowing him to get underneath. A little bit of a block there, a little bit of a fake. Larry Pace goes low, goes high, can't find anywhere to make the gap. Has to back out of it. Going to be single file in turn number 3. They still fight barely inches apart coming into turn number 3. Once again, Larry Pace just having the back out of it. Has to think about where he wants that move to be made. Both cars now getting loose off of turn number 4. Turn number 4 is going to be the trouble spot. If there is an incident tonight, I have a feeling it's going to be someone getting sent up into that turn 4 catch fence or rebounding off the wall into the pit wall, possibly hitting the pit attenuator. I'll give them 10 stars for that. If any of the drivers are listening here tonight, do that, and maybe there's $10 iRacing credit coming your way just to see if you can do it. Going to be 22 laps to go as they cross the stripe this time. Coming out of turn number 4, currently leading is going to be Thomas Lewandowski. Following in the 2nd position will be Larry Pace. River Hayes coming across in the 3rd position. Brandon Buckberger 4th, and Laura Gerhardt 5th. Single file all the way through your top 6. We'll take a peek back at the number 7th position car of Derek Love. Not a lot of action going on back here. Very comfortably in 7th. Colby Mann trying to find a way around, trying to find a little more speed on track, but just very hard to chase down that number 2 car. Uncharacteristic for the lack of speed here tonight, but he is not turning slow laps at all. He's only turning laps about a tenth off what your leaders are, so possibly missed the setup here tonight. Maybe wasn't expecting all the fog, all the humidity. About a 66 degree day here in Japan. We'll try and work our way back in the grid. Why don't we spotlight on our number 24 car, Calvin Smith. Unsponsored machine here. Typically, one of your bottom split drivers is the lowest ranked driver in the field, running a very respectable 21st position here. Was up to the 17th, 18th position for having a little bit of trouble falling back, but not doing too terribly bad. Only running 34.5, so about 3/10 off of your top split guys who you know have been running this series for about 5 years or longer. So to jump in this series, jump in this car, and only be 3/10 off racing with the big dogs, you got to give him props, and hopefully he's a name we'll see in top split maybe towards the end of this season, maybe in the next season, or maybe in the next year. Just as long as he keeps up with the car, it's going to be one of our names to watch. As we'll move back up to the fight for the race lead, Larry Pace running about 2/10 behind leader Thomas Lewandowski. You can see just about a car length there separating those two cars, and as they get the draft down the front straightaway, that gap closes up. River Hayes now trying to rejoin this fight. These three cars have broken away completely from Laura Gerhardt. Laura Gerhardt now sitting about 1/10 of a second back from River Hayes. Brandon Buckberger also falling back. Buckberger currently trying to compete with James Watson, going to be right behind the number 6 machine of James Watson. See painted with the number 39. That's the number that James Watson usually runs. Tonight is going to be the number 6 car in timing and scoring. Buckberger trying to find a way around the inside. Slides high, going to try to find a way around the outside. Nothing to either dimension. James Watson goes to lock up high. Nothing Buckberger can do. He can try and swing low. He's going to be at the left rear tire now. Going to try and get the move done in the turn number 3. Excuse me. Again, counting is not our strong suit here, but they're going to be side by side for the race lead. Coming across the line, it's going to be Thomas Lewandowski leading that lap. Larry Pace just 1.9 hundredths of a second behind Thomas Lewandowski. River Hayes is going to be right there in the 3rd position behind this pair of cars, running side by side out of turn number 2. Going to be 15 laps remaining as they cross the stripe. Easily Lewandowski leading that lap. Now it's going to be River Hayes and Larry Pace side by side in the turn number 1. Hayes with the advantage on the high side. Pace trying to get the move done on the inside. Has the advantage coming out of turn 2. But as they go down the straightaway, that outside line is going to give the momentum. And he has the draft for River Hayes there. In the turn number 3, they will be at a dead even heat with, Larry Pace going very, very deep into the corner. This seems to be working for him pretty well. Able to get the move completed coming out of turn number 4. River Hayes trying to get the crossover done. Going to be side by side on the inside line now. Going to cross him up. Get the move done coming out of turn number 2. This is fantastic. I love it when these guys do this. Larry Pace now going to dive to the inside as they go down the back straightaway. Can they cross him up again? Lap traffic in front of them could get in the way of this battle. Lap traffic moves way up to the high line. That is going to be your 21 machine of Scott Holder. And these drivers have to go single file, but as soon as they pass the lap car, right back at it again. They're going to go side by side. River Hayes now to the inside of Larry Pace as they go into turn number 1. Dives deep into the corner, easily clearing Larry Pace. Big bobble there out of River Hayes. Larry Pace going to be able to get to the inside of him going down the back straightaway. Coming in the turn number 3, still going to be side by side. Pace going to send it in way deep. Not quite, barely able to clear River Hayes. Hayes now going to dive to the inside, try and cross him up. Coming across the line, it's going to be Larry Pace that time. This is exactly what Thomas Lewandowski wants to see out of his rearview mirror if he had a rearview mirror. Silver Crown cars, absolute death machines. No mirrors, no rear view. They did get spotters here at the super speedways, though, so you at least had some idea of what was going on around you, but your head was pointed straight dead ahead at what is in front of you. No idea what's going on around you, except for contact or what your spotter is telling you in your ear. These things racing in 2006, 2007, and I believe 2008 was the final season for the Super Speedway Silver Crown cars. Never really getting huge car counts out of these cars and drivers. Not a lot of teams had these machines. They were kind of an obscure car. They ran only a couple races a year preceding the Indy cars when they ran at the mile-and-a-half tracks. For the rest of the schedule, they would run their normal Silver Crown cars, looking almost like a sprint car, but a little bit longer. You can imagine they look like these things without the front bumper, without those side flares, and that's what a normal Silver Crown car looks like. They run them on short tracks like Lucas Oil Raceway Park, other similar short tracks around the country, and they run them on dirt as well, the same car. As you see, the 22 cars in the wall, gets in the side of Larry Pace. How did he not wreck that race car? That was a huge hit out of Larry Pace there. See if we can get a replay of that once again. See if we can get another angle. Coming out of turn number 2, you see the 22 car bounce off that outside wall, slide into the side. That is huge contact. It's enough to lift the 22 car up on its side, but Larry Pace holds the wheel dead set straight. Does he even feel it? Quick little snappy correction and able to keep that car in a straight line. Props to the man, Larry Pace. There's a reason he holds that number 1 on that race car. Unfortunately, not able to bring him in for an interview. I would have loved to hear his thoughts on what just happened, how he was able to keep that car going in a straight line. Doesn't even look like there's any damage on it. He got blessed by the netcode gods. I don't know what they take as sacrifice. I don't know what what prayers you have to say to netcode gods. But whatever they are, that's the reason he holds that number 1 car. He knows them all and prays to them every night. That was incredible. I'm going to say it was 50% skill and 50% luck, and it might be more luck, but in the words of Roger Penske, I'd rather be lucky than good. Holy cow. So as the field is under caution, your top car right now is going to be Thomas Lewandowski in that first position. Right behind him is going to be Larry Pace, River Hayes, Laurie Gerhardt. Brandon Buckberger going to make up your top 5. James Watson going to be your first car outside of the top 5 in that 6th position. Derek Love getting the break he absolutely needed, going to be in the 7th position. Colby Mann going to be in the 8th position. Nick Camargo in 9th, and Joe Gauthier in the 10th position. Sign-on checking in, saying RN Jesus is smiling on him tonight. Random number generator Jesus is smiling on him tonight. Absolutely. That just doesn't happen. Typically the way it would happen is Larry Pace would be upside down way in the infield, and that car that hit the wall, that 22 car, would be perfectly fine with no damage. Maybe iRacing has had a couple updates. The netcode's getting it right more and more. But only going to be a couple laps to go here when they go back under green. As we'll look from the mirror cam here on the iRacing safety car, the whole field of cars trailing behind them. I believe one cylinder in these Silver Crown machines makes more horsepower than this iRacing safety car can ever dream of producing. But you saw some of the field before diving below that white line to the cooler surface of the racetrack, trying to get any and all temperature out of these tires, getting them as gripped up as possible for the restart. Sounds counterintuitive. It's commonly thought you want more and more temperature in the tires, and that is true to a point. You get them up to 150, 160 degrees, Rubber is very, very sticky. These tires are super glued up to the racetrack. You step over that just a little bit. You get them to 180, 190, 200, and all of a sudden, it's like driving on mud. That rubber just moves around too much. It gets chucked off the tire, and all of a sudden, you're driving on ice. But with a very cool racetrack, you see only James Watson diving down there below the white line. As hopefully we see the lights go out on the iRacing safety car this time. And they do. Lights are out. It is going to be just one lap remaining before we go back under green. Going to be 5 laps remaining. They'll take the green flag and the high five from the flagman. Only going to be 5 laps to go when they go back under green. As the field makes their way down the backstretch into turn number 3, you'll notice more and more of these drivers moving up to that white safety barrier all the way out the high side of the track. That is because when the pace car dives in and the green flag waves, you can pass all you want on the high side, but you cannot pass on the low side till you cross start-finish line. So all these drivers will move up to that outside wall to defend the move from an opportunistic driver from behind getting the jump on them on the restart. As you'll see, pace car diving down low, going to make the hard left turn on the pit lane. Thomas Lewandowski going to be your control car now here. You'll see 2 cones wedged in the outside catch fence and a double white line painted on the racetrack. That is when the green flag will come out, and he'll be able to step on it and get away from this field. Jumps a little bit early. Perfectly fine. The safety car was in. Those are the iRacing rules, and is able to get almost a 0.4 of a second gap over Larry Pace, going to try and get as far away as he can. Larry Pace having to contend with River Hayes once again. Going to be 5 laps remaining. 5-lap shootout for these drivers. Derek Love now competing, trying to get back up into the top 5. Kind of recovering a finish here tonight. As noted in the pre-race spiel. So low strength of field here tonight. All 24 cars are in this one. You have some of your lowest drivers from the bottom split, your highest drivers like Lewandowski, Pace, and Hayes. So a terrible finish tonight isn't the end of the world. It was probably going to be a drop week anyway, but you still want to show up and look good for your sponsors. 4 laps remaining now. Going to be almost half a second between Lewandowski and Larry Pace. Race for the lead. Looks like it is just about over. Huge wiggle there out of Lewandowski, though. It's not over quite yet. So we watch along with Larry Pace now as he's getting away from River Hayes, closing the gap to Lewandowski. He wants another try at this race lead. Single file the entire way through the field, so we'll keep our eyes on this battle for the race lead. Going to be a 1/4 of a second separating Lewandowski and Pace, and just about a 1/10 of a second separating Hayes from Pace. They come out of turn 4. It's going to be popsicle sticks in the air. Going to be 2 laps remaining for the Silver Crown cars here on their expedition to the land of the rising sun. Single file all the way through the top 3. If there's a move to be made, now's the time to start setting it up, playing the chess, and seeing if you can get underneath Lewandowski, trying to get the move done. Lewandowski with another big bobble. That's going to lose him some time to Larry Pace. Larry Pace now going to be just over a 1/10 of a second behind. That's exactly what he needed. Needs to have a perfect turn 3 and 4 here. Not to lose any time. Lewandowski going to have to get a big run down the front straightaway. White flag's going to come out. It's going to be the final lap here. Another 1.5 miles for Larry Pace to try and make the move on Lewandowski. Can he get it done? Big bobble there out of Larry Pace. That might have cost him all his momentum. Going to be just shy of a 1/10 of a second here. Can he make the big dive into turn number 3? Not quite anything to be done there. And closes the gap, but does not get by. Going to be single file across the line. Nothing he can do about it. It's going to be Thomas Lewandowski winning tonight's 65-lap feature here at Mobility Resort Motegi. Larry Pace coming up just a tenth of a second shy. River Hayes going to be right behind in the third position. As all of our top three cars getting off the racing surface very, very quickly. Pace car finally making its way out to its final resting point. You can see here the bridge that gaps over turn number 3, where the road course actually runs underneath. Not a roval here at Mobility Resort Motegi, just 2 racetracks, one built right on top of the other one. So, Thomas Lewandowski, coming out of New York, will be your race winner. Larry Pace, the Canadian, going to be finishing in the second position, even closer than the original timing and scoring noted, at just 78 thousandths of a second shy of winning that one. River Hayes going to be 3/10 off the mark, coming home in the third position. Laura Gerhardt going to be coming home in the fourth position. Brandon Buckberger in the 5 car, coming home 5th. Entering into your top 6, it's going to be James Watson, another car matching his predicted number in the 6th position. Derek Love, an uncharacteristic 7th place finish, but as we said, not the end of the world. It was a low-strength field tonight, so not a whole to gain, not a whole ton to lose. Nick Camargo finishing in a fantastic 8th position, Colby Mann 9th, and Tommy Toe making his way up to the 10th position. That is going to round out your top 10. In 11th is Joe Gauthier. 12th will be Brian Elmore, 13th will be Scott Schroeder, 14th Steve Costley, and 15th will be Steven Protzman. Finishing 16th will be Robert Reynolds, 17th will be Drew Bernardi, 18th Vic Aldrich, 19th Kyle Westwood. I guess we don't have a 20th place car. It doesn't look like it wants to show up here on timing and scoring. Oh, there we go. Calvin Smith finishing in the 20th position. I guess it just wanted to get cut off on my view. Scott Holder going to be coming home in the 21st position. Edward Delighter finishing in the 22nd position. Bertrand Allen finishing 2 laps down in the 23rd position. And Todd Taylor exiting the race just 32 laps early, going to be coming home in the 24th position. Seeing if we can get some of our drivers here for their driver interviews. And first up, we'll bring in second place driver Larry Pace. Larry Pace, a fantastic race tonight. Leading a whole bunch of laps, doing a lot of trading off there with River Hayes. Unfortunately, not able to get it done towards the end. It looked like you had a great run down that back straightaway, though. Let us know what happened out there.
Well, it was a blast, that's for sure. Very, very difficult tonight. I was trying to die off a turn 4 pretty much the entire race until the fuel started to burn off and it got a little more manageable, but it was still so sketchy. So, I mean, it was... Of the top 3, there is anybody's race. It was very hard to lead this race because of the draft, and yeah, Tom did a really good job on that last run.
Yeah, it looked like turn 4 was difficult for everybody. Was the track just really, really loose coming out of turn 4? I know I saw a lot of drivers pushing in the turn number 3. Is that just the nature of this track where the car's going to suck on the loose side part of it, and it's going to suck on the tight side at other parts of it?
Yeah, it's kind of typical twin ring. It flattens out and there's an elevation change on exit of 4 that always gets you loose if you rush the throttle or have a little bit too much wheel into it. And I also think there was some wind that was coming and going tonight. You know, some corners they'd be like, okay, feels good. Next corner I'd be looking at the inside wall. So it was definitely really challenging. I think it's classic twin ring and a bit of wind thrown in there.
Yeah, very typical Japanese track. I think every single Japanese track is built on the side of a mountain, so you get that elevation change and all the crazy winds, and they're all very, very unpredictable to drive. But still put on a great show for us tonight. Why don't you give us all your sponsor plugs and thank yous?
Well, just a huge thanks to Thomas Lewandowski once again for lending me the setup. It was really fast, even though it was out of control off of 4. It was a little better than everybody else. And it was always great running with Tom. It's the only reason I run these races, because Tom runs them, and he's fun to race with. So just a huge thanks to Tom, and to you, Bizzle, and everybody here that does the broadcast. Really do appreciate it.
Hell yeah. Well, thanks for coming out, giving us something to talk about, and hopefully we're talking to you again next week.
Take care.
And next up, it's time for us to bring in race winner Thomas Lewandowski. Tom, what a fantastic race tonight. You did probably a phenomenal, flawless job, leading, I believe, most of the laps, if not you, your teammate Larry Pace behind you, letting us know he was on the same setup as you. You guys were just on fire tonight. I mean, what's the trick to running at Motegi here? Because I could never figure it out.
The trick is a good setup, I think. It was, I've been faster, the past few times, we've raced, and it's always a little sketchy with, especially like off of turn 4. You have to be really patient with the throttle, and if not, it can get real sketchy real fast. But as the race went on, the wind shifted and it became less of an issue, and actually turn 2 became a bigger issue for me. But I had enough speed where I can kind of almost dictate the pace up front, and worked out pretty good.
Yeah, on that last restart, you got a huge jump off it, but every time you exited turn 2, I saw a big bobble out of that car, and Pace kept catching you right up until the white flag lap where you hit it perfectly, and he was the one that had the bobble.
Yeah, it's just really hard leading there. One, because you don't have a reference point. Really, you can't follow the person in front of you, and two, you can just, if you're behind someone, you can just kind of ease off it, because you're going to get the straightaway, the draft on the straightaway, and I'm just trying to carry as much speed as I possibly can to mitigate that. So it almost went bad for me the first the second lap after that restart. He got real big sideways, but we got just kept it together good enough to not let him get a run, and yeah. Now
it was very, very foggy here tonight. Did that affect how you approach the race? Does that affect the setup or anything, or is that just aesthetically pleasing?
Yeah, I feel like it's always foggy when we race here for some reason. I'm not sure what it is, but it pretty much just, I think, keeps the track temp pretty consistent, because you're not going to get the sun really coming out at all. So you just have to worry about the wind pretty much.
Well, it's fantastic talking to you again. Why don't we get some of your sponsor plugs, thank yous, shout outs, whatever you want to do.
Shout out to you guys for broadcasting these, and everyone over at the Drill Owl, John, Larry, Marcus, Bob, they all make it happen, and support me, and just whatever I want to do sim racing. And, once again, thanks to you guys.
Hell yeah. Well, thanks for coming out, giving us something to talk about, and hopefully we're talking to you again next week.
All right, hopefully next week.
Well, that was your race winner, Thomas Lewandowski. What a fantastic show here tonight. Motegi always puts on a great show. I always go into these ones skeptical. It's just going to be another Motegi race. I always forget how good of a show this track puts on. It's a shame that nothing races here on the Big Oval in the rear world anymore. Damaged by the 2011 earthquakes. I believe I heard they got it repaired fairly quickly after that, though, and just no major racing series coming back to the Big Oval, but hopefully that'll change in the future. But that's going to be it for me here tonight on the NASCAR Racing Network. Tomorrow night, we've got sprint car action, followed by the TNT Shock Series. I would be a better host if I could tell you where either of those cars are racing, but they'll be at their usual time slots at 8 o'clock and then 9:30 or 9:45, respectively. So until tomorrow night, we will catch you all later. Thank you very much for tuning in. Have a good night.